Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel on my way to the Wyckoff, Minnesota Sportsman's and Gun Show. I keep saying Sportsman and Gun Show because I want everybody to know that there will be people talking about guns at the Sportsman's Show here and there in Wyckoff. So, I've been having a lot of conversations over the last couple of years for sure, but especially intently over the last year about how Americans, but conservatives in particular, address and think and react to institution of policing. And I've also been, a big student of logic and logical fallacies and philosophy for quite some time, and even as they apply to Christian apologetics and how we interact with people in a disagreement on worldview, philosophy, political philosophy, socio-economic philosophy, socio-political issues, cultural issues. And one of my favorite fallacies that I have run into, and when I say favorite, it's not one that I like to use, but one of my favorites that I run into is the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is very frequently seen in the entrepreneurial mindset. Let's use restaurant who decide that they're going to go out and they're going to start a brand new bar and grill, or a tap house or brewery that serves food, or let's say a distillery that's also going to have a menu of food items, right? And so these people invest. They've worked hard their whole lives. They invest in this business, and they pour their heart, their soul, their whole purpose, their whole reason for being, their raison d'etre, if you will, into it. And they invest and they invest and they invest. They go to a bank, they secure a small business loan, they procure a building, they remodel it, they just pour everything that they are into it. And then, as we know, and I watched Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay, people become so convinced that what they're doing is patently the best thing for them to do and the best use of resources, because they love what they're doing, that they cannot see when it's failing. And when they do see that they're struggling, they believe that the best for them to do is continue to pour into it instead of cutting their losses and moving on. Because I've invested everything. I've invested my savings. I've invested my retirement. I've invested my personal time. I've invested the time of my family. We've sacrificed so much that if I give up now, I'm a failure. If I stop now, it's been a failure, and I can't afford to be a failure. I have to make this work. And so they continue to pour more and pour more and pour more and pour more into it until eventually they've poured everything that they have into it, and they still cannot admit that it was a mistake, that they did something wrong, that it's time for a sea change, if you will, a paradigm shift. I was there once. Never been an entrepreneur. I've never been the kind of person who's ever had the moxie to go out and try to start a business, and an actual brick and mortar type thing. I sell merch for my show, for my channel, for my platform. I do that. I have my Subscribe Star, which, by the way, if you like the content or you like engaging and you want to see me be able to keep doing this, please invest there at Subscribestar, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast on Subscribestar. I have like a $1 entry level support. Everything helps, especially after what I've sacrificed for the Constitution, for this republic. So, but I've been there. But my version of the sunk cost fallacy was the absolute doubling down and adherence to, I'm a conservative, I'm law and order, I must back the blue at all costs. I've invested so much in this. I have family in law enforcement. I have friends in law enforcement. I'm for law and order. I'm for people being held accountable for committing crimes. I'm for this. I must invest even more. I must double down. I must pour myself into it. And I poured and I poured and I poured and I poured until I poured myself out. And then, having gone into the law enforcement career field, granted I wasn't a beat cop, but I was a sworn deputy inside of an adult detention center, and I took the same oath that every other cop in the country takes, every other deputy in the country takes. I swore an oath that's almost identical to the oath that I swore when I was in the Army, and I poured myself into keeping and upholding my oath. So much so that in 2020, when I started my channel, when I started my show on a platform, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and go back and watch my earliest videos. Go all the way back to the very first video you can find on my channel. You'll see. I took my oath incredibly serious. Very seriously. It meant something to me. Just like it should mean to every single person who has ever taken the oath. So much so that on my own time, in my downtime, on my days off, in my nights off, on my weekends off, I was speaking out. But what I began to notice was that I was guilty of the sunk cost fallacy. And I looked around me and I saw fellow conservatives, fellow patriots, fellow republic-loving, constitutionally minded, oath-keeping people who were doubling down, and they were sinking themselves further into the sunk cost fallacy. And the sunk cost fallacy for conservatives today is we are law and order. We have to back the blue. And I'm not talking about a hatred for the blue. I'm not talking about an all cops are bastards mentality. ACAB. I don't believe that. I don't believe that every individual person in the law enforcement world is corrupt. I believe that the institution of policing, I believe that the institution of law enforcement across the United States today, our once grand republic, has become corrupt. It has become corrupt. And people are having a very hard time addressing that. They don't understand because, God damn it, I am a conservative and I will not back down. And as I have been telling so many people as of late, you are backing the tools of your own oppression. Okay? It's the sunk cost fallacy because you have poured so much of who you are, so much of your being, you have poured into, I must back the blue, that if you start to have your eyes open and you start to push back and you start to speak out, people are going to think that you've lost your ever-loving mind. They're like, what's wrong? What happened to you? You're not the same person I knew. You aren't that person that I knew 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 decades ago. You're not that same person. Are you a leftist? Are you a Marxist? What kind of libtard are you? That's what they say. And the reason that I know that is because people have said that to me. People I respect, people that I love passionately as fellow patriots and fellow constitutionalists have come out and said, you sound like a leftist. And like, if you listen to me, I'm not a leftist. I'm not. But I'm not going to invest any more in doubling down so I don't have to say, wait, I was wrong. And that's where conservatives, conservative types, conservatism in the United States Republic today, they've got to wake up. And it hurts. Oh, God, do I know how it hurts. If you people knew what it cost me, what it has done to me, if you knew the people that I have lost, people that I have sweat alongside and bled alongside and fought alongside, and people who I have like prayed with and had pray for me, people who I have engaged with and respected immensely. It has cost me so much, but that's the point of change, right? The things that are best for us when they're happening to us hurt immensely. They hurt terribly. They hurt profoundly. But sometimes that hurt, sometimes that pain is good for us. And more often than not, that pain, that hurt, is actually beneficial just in the pain itself. Not just because of the outcome, but in the pain itself. Because it wakes us up. It tells us, hey, something's wrong. And that's what I'm pleading with my fellow conservatives to understand. And I'm not a traditional conservative, ladies and gentlemen. I am paleo-conservative, paleo-libertarian. I am not your normative, just slightly right of center, vote GOP no matter what all the time kind of person. I'm definitely never going to vote for a Democrat in my area because there's not a single Democrat that will ever support any of the things that I believe in and still remain a Democrat. But I'm also not blindly following just the idea of, oh, well, I'm a conservative, so I got to vote for Trump, or I'm a conservative, I got to vote for whatever the Republican candidate is. I'm voting for the person. And as corrupt as we know politics to be, we also have to wake up and understand that the institution of law enforcement, the institution of policing, and that's a key word to understand, policing as an institution is corrupt because, as someone said to me in a conversation on Twitter, and I have a massive amount of respect for this person and the brief time that we've been interacting, because they have continued to engage and it's turned into a genuine dialectic going back and forth. And this is part of the drive time dialectic conversations that I've been having over the last few months, by the way. The law is the law. They've got to enforce it unless it's immoral. That's not true. Police don't have to follow every law just unless it's immoral. They don't have to enforce every law if it's, unless, across the board, unless it's immoral. Here's the issue. There are a lot of things that have been law in this country that should have never been enforced by anybody, ever. Every law against marijuana should have never been a law. Just because it's law doesn't make it moral. And just because someone orders you to enforce that law, just because it's law, doesn't make that law moral. It's not the issue of morality or immorality that an officer has to be concerned about. It's about constitutionality. What is the constitutional nature of the law I am being ordered to enforce? What is the constitutional nature of the order that I am being ordered to execute? That's where we have to look, and that's what we have to be compelling our fellow conservatives to look at. And if they want to look at it from a small L libertarian perspective, that's the question that every single person who has ever said, I believe in the Constitution, needs to ask. Not is this law valid, but is this law legal, but is this law constitutional? And if somebody says, well, the courts haven't struck it down, so it must be constitutional. No. And I've said this before, I don't care if SCOTUS, as the Supreme Court of the United States, says this law is okay. That doesn't make it okay. SCOTUS isn't the end all and be all. Your state Supreme Court isn't the end all and be all of what is constitutional. That first line of defense of constitutional violations against we the people has to be we the people, but then it has to be the rank and file officers, the deputies, the cops, state police, those rank and file people. Those are the ones that need to be trained up and taught the Constitution from the earliest age possible in their education, all the way up until they go to college or they go to the academy. It needs to be pounded into their minds every day, all day, every time they take a class, every time they walk into the classroom, every time they go for training. The Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. They need to know it as well as every other person who practices law should know it. They have to know it because they have a duty to intervene. They have a duty to interpose when they are dealing with the situation. What is the constitutional nature of this situation? Is what I'm being ordered to do going to violate the rights and the liberties and the pursuit of happiness in life that is embedded into the heart and soul of every single human being by the God of nature, by natural law? Is it going to violate that? And if it is, if it's a violation of that, it violates the Constitution. If it violates the Constitution, it's not lawful. It is not moral. It is wicked and it is immoral, and we have to not support this. We will stand up even if it costs us our career. That's what has to happen. That's how we change the institution of policing. That's how we change what happens to us as individual members of this republic. That's how we make a difference. But if we are not willing to hold individual peace officers to that standard, then we might as well turn over every one of our firearms. We might as well turn over every book that the state has decided we shouldn't be reading, because the Constitution is null and void if we cannot hold law enforcement, peace officers, to that standard, the standard of the oath that they took to defend the Republic and the Constitution. Conservatives, I'm getting emotional. You have got to wake up. It is no longer law and order to support police, because police are not about law and order. They're about feelings enforcement, and they're about enforcing policy. And they should be about protecting the people of this republic from violations of their liberties as they're ensconced and enshrined in the Constitution, because the forefathers, the founding fathers of this nation, of this republic, recognize the inherent natural rights, the negative rights of man to resist unlawful, evil, and wicked authorities. But Christians, especially, and conservatives, especially, have to pull their heads out of the darkness that they have hidden them in by saying, oh, we have to back the blue. We have to be about law and order. No, first and foremost, you need to be about the Constitution. And you need to stop doubling down, and you need to start opening your eyes and looking around you and saying to yourself and others, is what we're supporting the truth? Is what we're supporting constitutional? Is what we're supporting right? Not according to what a judge says, not according to what a local mayor or a local municipality or a local county or anything else, not according to what they say, ladies and gentlemen, but according to what the Constitution says. That is the final arbiter of what is right. That is the final arbiter of what is just. That is the final arbiter of all things that are good and proper in this republic. You don't have to continue to double down on your position to be a patriot. You do not have to continue to double down on your position to be a good member of this republic. A good member of this republic is not afraid to look around and say, is this right? Is this proper? Is this good for the republic? And is this person who is representing the state, the federal state, the municipal state, the county state, whatever it is this person who is acting as a representative of the state, are they doing what is right? Are they doing what is proper? Are they doing what is good? And if they're not, then they are not good cops. And the more you invest in the sunk cost fallacy mentality, the more you hurt yourself. The more you support the tools of your eventual oppression. And we have to stop that. We cannot allow that to happen any longer, my friends. We can't. Love for the Republic says we challenge anyone who violates the law of the Republic. The law of the Republic, the law of this land is the Constitution. So ask yourself, my conservative friends, my back the blue friends, people that I love, people that I respect, people that I'm thankful for having in my life, I have to ask you, are you guilty of the sunk cost fallacy? Are you so invested in your position? Are you so invested in what it is that you believe that you're afraid that if you examine it closely, you'll find that you've been fooled, not by everybody else, but by yourself? Because the biggest fool is not the person who allows someone else to fool them. The biggest fool is a person who will be fooled by their own thought process. I don't say these things to you to enrage you. I say these things to you in the hopes that I'm planting the seed of your own awakening. If you guys are anywhere in Minnesota that's within a decent driving distance of Wyckoff, come down and see me. I'm going to be here all day today. I'll be here all day tomorrow. It's February 17th. Tomorrow's February 18th. Is 2 days it's going on. Come down, check us out. There's going to be at least 130 some vendors and presenters at this sportsman and gun show. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stop by and check in if you're anywhere in the area and you can make it. Follow my channel, subscribe, find me on Subscribestar, leave a comment. Please share this out. Put this out on social media for other people to see if you can. And until next time, my friends, as always, fight for your freedoms. They are yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And Sic Semper, Tyrannis.